Hello teacher, welcome to our presentation of Group H. Today I will talk about the automation testing tool for specific the Postman application. So let's come to the table of content. We will talk about the reason why we chose Postman, then the history overview. Next we will introduction about the Postman, and we will talk about the advantage and disadvantages of the Postman. So let's come to the first session, why we choose Postman. So there are 6 main reasons that why we choose Postman. The first is that Postman lets you automate API testing and integrate it into your CI/CD pipeline. The second reason is Postman supports for many platforms like Mac OS, Windows, Linux. It also supports for ARM devices, for Ubuntu, some other operation like Fedora or Debian. The third reason is that Postman supports many authentication mechanisms like basic OAuth, OAuth 1, OAuth and OAuth 2, Java Web Token, and many more. Then the next reason is that Postman test reports give you the track data that is sent through the request builder only. And the Postman also has a very strong community. It holds strong support and community to enhance its usage in various platforms. Postman also can be integrated with on the top developers tools. And that are the 6 reasons that why we chose Postman. So let's take a look at the developed history of Postman. First, in 2013, the client scripts and testings. Postman begins as a browser-based solution for testing and debugging APIs, helping developers understand how APIs work or do not work, then saving that understanding as a reusable, shareable collection that can be run by others. In 2014, collection become a standardized way to define, save, and then run one or many API requests. That includes scripting for automation, allowing collection to be run on the desktop or via a command line interface and CI/CD. In 2015, the documentation emerged as a priority, expanding the ability for developers to publish shareable and embeddable documentation that also has a variety of code snippets in different programming languages. In 2016, Postman integrate with GitHub and GitLab. Source control integration for developers become very important, allowing Postman to be more tightly linked to the developer's existing software development lifecycle, so that artifacts and tests can be kept in alignment with source control. In 2017, mocking is an essential part of the API lifecycle as part of testing. So Postman introduced the ability to deploy mock servers as defined by a collection, and the examples it contains providing a simple way to create static mocks of APIs. In 2018, acknowledging that the need for closer collaboration across teams, workspace are launched, as well as the ability to comment on collections and search across workspace, APIs, and collections. Then in 2019, the Postman has opened the public network. The public API network is launched to support the needs of public API producers wanting to attract new users, and it also provides a public catalog for API consumers to use when looking for APIs to use in their applications. And then in 2020, the Postman has launched the public workspace. The ability to change the visibility of a workspace to be a public workspace is introduced to support the needs of API producers when it comes to engaging with consumers by allowing them to view, fork, and interact with their APIs. And finally, in 2021, last year, new Postman API platform has been launched. The new Postman API platform launches with powerful capabilities and integrations, supporting today's API first movement, which is leading individual innovators and enterprises into the future. And the next part will be presented by Jung.
So after young part is part three. My so I will present part three introduction. And first of all, what is Postman? As you know, Postman is an API client used to develop, test, share, and document APIs. It is used for backend testing where we enter the endpoint URL. It sends the request to the server and receives the response back from the server. In Postman, we do not have to build a framework to fetch the response from the service. This is the main reason for which Postman is used frequently by the developers and automation engineers to ensure that the service is up and running along with the build version of an API that is being deployed into the region. It essentially helps in hitting API endpoints by quickly creating requests as per the API specification and dissecting the various response parameters like the status code, headers, and the actual response body itself. Next, we will come with the main component of Postman. And you see in the screen the main components of Postman. We have collections, APIs, history, mock servers, monitor, flows, and environments. Uh, Postman have a lot of feature in each section, such as feature in request, feature in response, feature in variables, feature in scripts and Postman sandbox, feature in collaborations, feature in collection, and also in monitoring API platform, mock server, documentation, and managed team. But our team have researched that some outstanding feature of Postman you need to know is such as API development, setting mockup endpoints for APIs that are still under development, API documentation, assertion for the response received from API endpoint execution, and integration with CI/CD tools like Jenkins, TeamCity, etc. And the last one is automating API test execution. So that is the end of my presentation. So next, my groupmate will present.
Next is about the advantages and disadvantages of Postman. Postman is so widely used because it contains so many great benefits. The first is about the API testing. So what is API testing? This is the stage that includes the step to test the response from HTTP. Postman's own collection so user can freely make requests from APIs, including settings. This restraint that Postman possesses. Experimental operation are made easier thanks to Postman patronage. The next is very flexible. Instead of having to create a new collection of environments, you can completely import your unfinished your unfinished project from other platforms. Postman accepts all types of files, links, and even page text. In addition, Postman requires with a debugger that has to examine the export user data. From there, ensure the integrity of the resource after using Postman more. The final is the last. The final is that Postman has a very high redundancy. This application supports both UI and non-UI interface. It also provides automated code for the Java programming language. That is why Postman has a large number of users. Disadvantage of the Postman is like other technology application. Postman has its own downsides. The drawback of Postman is that not everything is free. A lot of important features are limited and you can only view when pushers a pusher pair plans. However, this is not too big of a limitation. Usually they expect it and not too advanced. Moreover, a software development project will not lack this little cost to optimize the construction process. So that is our presentation. Thank you for listening.